Hello, my name's Elizabeth and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to look at cleaning data. Using Power Query, you can clean data super fast, proficient, and you can even create steps so that if you want to clean a similar data set in the future, all you have to do is press the good old refresh button. So dive on in with me. We're going to look at splitting columns, merging columns, some text transformations. We're going to look at replacing values and also how to delete duplicates, specifically deleting duplicates and keeping the first value there. So head on over to the spreadsheet with me. Okay, now that we're back on the spreadsheet, let's talk about data cleaning. Let's head on over to our data tab and go right on into this. So here's our data tab. Right now it is a little bit messy. First thing I always do is I stick this into a table format. So up here in cell A1, if I just press Control T and my tables do have headers, okay. If you don't want to press Control T, you can also highlight all your data. You can head to the head to the Insert tab and click the table button. This now puts it in a table format. I can do a little bit of cleanup here. This is a date. This is a hire date. So the data we're looking at here is an employee roster, but as you can see, some of these employees are going to be on here more than once. So the situation would be if they were hired for a certain job and then they got promoted to a different role within the same company, they're going to have a new hire date on when they were hired into that new role. So I'm just going to change the hire and the term date both to dates. So I'm going to change the salary to a number format or to a currency format. I want to rename my table. Let's rename it employee. And now I'm going to head over to the data tab. Clicking inside my table, I'm going to select from table/range. This will get my table into Power Query. Okay, now that we're loaded into Power Query, let's check this out. So as you can see, Power Query will automatically apply one step to your table. It tries to pick up the data type of each of your columns and apply it to it. So as you can see, we've got data type of text on these columns. We have data type of date time on these. And then it looks like we probably have a data type of a integer, on the salary. So the first thing I like to do if I have any date columns, I highlight all of them and I head up to the Home tab, data type, and I change them to a date. Unless I'm specifically using something that has a time value that's important, I like to see it in a date format. It's a little easier for me to view. This is asking me, hey, do I want to replace the current step or do I want to add a new? I'm going to replace the current step. That will make all of my changes occur in this initial step that Power Query already created for me instead of having to create a new step. So we're good there. Now let's go into our splitting columns. Here's an example. We've got a column labeled job title, and this job title column is a little bit messy. It's got the department/job title, but I just want the title. So in this case, I'm going to select this column. I'm going to head over to transform. I'm going to go to split column, and it gives me a bunch of different options like, hey, how do you want to split this? I want to split this by delimiter. So I'm going to click right here and I'm going to say, hey, I want to split this column by this dash right here. So it automatically will split by space, and you can do column, comma, equal sign. There's a bunch of different preset delimiters you can use. I'm going to go to custom. I'm going to type in the slash. I want it on each occurrence. There's only going to be one in almost all of these. Actually, in all of these, not almost all of these. And I'm going to select OK. And as you can see, it's split it into job title 1, job title 2. Well, since we already have department, I'm going to come up here. I'm going to highlight job title 1. I'm going to go to home and remove the column. And I'm going to rename this just job title. I could have renamed this without creating another step if I would have gone back in the original step, but for simplicity reasons, I'm just going to rename this. And now let's talk about merging a column. So we just split a column. Now, if we want to merge a column, this happens a lot for me when I have a first name and a last name column and I want them together. So there's 12 different ways to do this, probably more. But if we do this simply by using the transform function again and we head on over, I'm going to highlight both of these columns, head to transform, and there's a function that's called merge columns. I'm going to select that column. A separator. I do want a separator, so I want this to merge first name space last name. I want a space, and my new column name is going to be full employee name. And I'm going to select OK. And now instead of my two first name, last names, I got the full employee name with a space between everyone's first and last name. So super easy way to get your data together. Pretty nice, simple, clean. Next, let's talk about some text transformations. What if we're going to change the case? If we want to make this all uppercase, all lowercase, or as what they call proper, where it's if it's a proper name, the first letter in the name is capitalized and the rest is lowercase. So in this case, actually our data looks pretty decent. It's going to be all in proper case, but if I wanted to change everyone's name to be an all uppercase, for example, we can go right on over here to this lovely transform tab. We can hit the format and we have all these options here. We can do all lowercase, all uppercase, capitalize each word, trim, clean. We have so many options. So let's click in the uppercase, as you can see. Awesome. And we can do the lowercase. And let's go back to the capitalize each word, is what we want, the proper case. And over here, just as you can see, every time I clicked, it created a new step. I'm going to just press the X and delete these steps. And as you can see, it comes up with a pop-up warning me that, hey, if I delete a step and there's steps after, it could potentially affect my cleaning process or my query. In this case, it won't, because nothing that this step includes is dependent on the next step. So I'm going to delete that. And that's how we would go about changing the case of our text. Let's talk about removing spaces. So let's look at some of our data down here. As you can see, Benjamin and Nathan and Michael, they have spaces before the start of their first name. And this can potentially be a problem if we're later going to go on and do a lookup function onto these employee names. You can cause errors. So one way to easily get rid of that is to highlight. Same in the transform column. In that format, we're going to click on the trim, and that will automatically delete the leading and the spaces before and after your text string to make it a cleaner format and easier to make joins later down the road. Okay, let's talk about replacing values. So replacing values, there's a ton of different use cases for this, but there's a really easy way to do this. So I'm going to head over to the Home tab. There's this transform function on the Home tab called replace values. And I usually use this on null values. So for instance, on term date right here, if I wanted to put today's current date in here to maybe find out how long someone's been in a role, what I could do is I could highlight this whole column. I can go to replace values. I want to replace the null value, so the nulls, with the current date. So I'm going to put 5/1/2024, select OK, and that will replace everything that was null. It's also really helpful when you choose to do some custom columns and calculations, because null values usually will pick up errors. So I end up replacing my null values with zeros a lot depending on the situation. So that's a great tool. It's the replace value tool right up in the Home tab. And my next almost favorite tool is removing duplicates. So let's come on over here. As you can see, we have some duplicates in this data set for employees that were rehired on. Let's see, James Kim is going to be there as well as right there. And we only want these employees to show up once. So an easy way to do that, if we didn't care about any of the other data point, is to select this, select our field, right click and press remove duplicates right here. And what that'll do is that'll shorten this to only include a list of unique values. You can also use the delete duplicate functions if you select multiple columns, which is really cool because it'll take the combination of that column. It'll take Jane Smith in sales and check if there's another Jane Smith in sales. As you can tell down here, there's a Jane Smith in HR. So if I highlighted both of these and pressed remove duplicates, I'm going to keep the Jane Smith in HR as well as the Jane Smith in sales, because that combination of these two columns isn't a duplicate. So it's really helpful when you need to remove duplicates and you have a certain combination of data points that you want to keep. Something that really comes in handy though is, say I didn't have this term date. I'm going to pretend like I don't have this, and I only have a hire date, and I want to delete the duplicate, but I want to keep the most recent position that employee was in. How would I go about doing that? So you could say, hey, I need to sort this. I'm going to sort this by descending. So I sorted by most recently hired down to the bottom, and then I'm going to go delete my duplicates. And unfortunately, that doesn't always work, because what happens is Power Query doesn't necessarily take this sort step into account when it's deleting the duplicate. It sorts the data after it's done applying almost all the other steps. So that doesn't work. So how do we make this work correctly? I'm going to go on back over here to the sort. There's a function in Power Query called table buffer. And what it allows you to do is, if you put this function and you wrap a sort function in a table buffer function, it forces the sort to happen before your next step. And that's what we need to do in order to make this work. So we've sorted by descending order here, which is what we need to do. And that means I want to take the first instance and delete the previous instance, or delete the next instance. So I'm going to head on into this formula. I'm going to click I'm going to start typing in here. I'm going to do table buffer dot buffer. I'm going to open my parentheses and close my parentheses. So all I'm doing is I'm taking this sort rows and I'm wrapping this formula into a table buffer formula, pressing OK or pressing enter to get me out of there. And now I can remove the duplicates. So now I can right click, remove duplicates. In this case, it'll take the most recent instance of that employee's name. So this will be their current job title. Once I'm done cleaning all this data, I can go to close and load. If I would like to, I can right click, I can press load to, and then I can just load it to a table onto a new sheet and press OK. And as you can see now, all of this clean data is back into Power Query. So here was our original data set, and now here's our new cleaned data in Power Query. Now, why is this important? One reason is it's a pretty fast way to clean data. I like it for how user-friendly it is, how many great tools there are in that Transform tab. And the second is the automatic cleaning. Say if you dump this table, it's from like an export from a program, and you put this table in here once a month and you need a new employee roster, well, you don't have to keep doing this. You can just dump a brand new export right into this data tab right here, copy and paste it in, or you can import it other ways. And all you have to do now is right click and press the refresh button, and it'll take that new data, it'll apply the cleaning process steps that you've done and put it right in here. I hope you liked this tutorial. If you did, please follow and subscribe.